Shit, looks like he's here. Hey, Eric.
Hey man,
What's up? Are you alive?
yeah, you know what's up. I just got out of the hospital. Like,
I heard I
can you
heard
hear
you
me?
had some health issues.
Yeah, look, I literally got like a bracelet from the hospital still on my arm, and doctor's recommendation is to not do anything that puts me under stress, not do anything that makes me use my voice. And here you are saying, "Come, do this space with me. It's important for the crypto industry." And I'm like, "Fuck." Okay, so here I am. How are you doing?
You you might die doing this.
Well, I promised
This
myself that I'm
this
not
might
going to
be
go
like
on
your last
rants.
public
Yeah,
appearance.
yeah, then we'll know who killed me. This will be your fault. Okay, but the good thing is that I can't go any rants. So only you can go on long rants this time. But do you want to kick it off, or should I kick it off?
No, you can kick it off. Do a tweet. Do a tweet. That's important.
Oh shit! But we can't invite half of Twitter. Won't be able to join this space as long as you are the host because you've blocked half of Twitter. Remember?
That's kind that's kind of a good thing. That's kind of a good thing.
Okay,
They'll
how do
just
I?
use their secondary accounts. Look, everyone has secondary accounts.
Let's see. How do I? I just
Really,
copied the
what
link.
we want to talk about. Yeah, I can
Okay.
copy the link and just tweet about it.
All
I'm
right.
sorry for everyone listening in. Eric is very slow, and he's probably drugged too because he was in the hospital for like 3 days straight.
I'm just on
So,
minor painkillers. Nothing. I'm usually on more drugs than this.
man, this is terrible.
Okay, but let's kick it off. So the situation that we have is that the what is it? Is it the Department of Justice or is it FBI that
I
has
think so, yeah.
sanctioned the U.S. government anyway has put a bunch of new addresses on the official sanctions list
OFAC.
for
Yeah.
OFAC. Right, and that list includes cache, all the types of addresses that they can find. So there's different pools in Tornado Cache. So all the different pools that they can find, there's different pools in Tornado Cache. So if you want to tumble, let's say 100 USDC or 1,000 USDC, there's different
You
pools.
you, you want to talk about what's
Uh,
Tornado Cash first?
well, I assumed that people would know, but it's basically like a coin join mixer that runs on chain on Ethereum, except it's better than coin join because it uses zero knowledge proofs. So it has I don't. Would you say that the privacy is superior than a coin join?
I would say that it's superior, yeah, because you have like a pool. It's so the way to think about it is you have a pool of coins you can deposit to the pool, and you're guaranteed that you will be able to withdraw. So you can always take your coins out of the pool, but outside observers can't tell the connection between a deposit and a withdrawal. So you put money in and you put money out, but people won't know that the same person put money in and out. And it will be, if you
Okay,
do
so
it to a new address, then yeah, then people can't make the connection.
okay, so it
So I
is it
would
is
say it's
better than
stronger
a
than
coin join.
CoinJoin.
Yeah, because a coin join, it's like one transaction. There's a bunch of inputs, there's a bunch of outputs, but here in this pool, like if you are first in and then you wait like 3 years and then you go out, like people that aren't gonna know if you were someone that deposited 1 year ago, 3 months ago, like when you got in is
Yep.
the transaction doesn't reveal. So from that point of view, the anonymity set becomes like all the users of that pool in one sense.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. So this
So
obviously
so the
is
user
a
experience was
very
pretty good.
powerful. Go ahead.
Yeah, the user experience for Tornado was very good. Like compared to other older privacy solutions, the user experience was pretty cool because you don't have to run it in the background and have it do mixing rounds for you or whatever. Just deposit coins, forget about it, and then whenever you need them at some point in the future, you can withdraw them, and outside observers can tell that withdrawal and deposit were connected. So yeah, go ahead.
All right, so you and me, we have now put ourselves in a difficult situation because we are always talking up these different privacy solutions that can't be built on Bitcoin, but they can be built on Ethereum, and we are trying to convince Bitcoin users that there are privacy tools that they can use on other chains and that they should look into using, for example, wrapped Bitcoin or other Bitcoin derivatives or even stable coins in these privacy tools, and that it's a good thing that they're experimenting with zero knowledge proofs and more powerful types of technology. And now we're in the situation where addresses are being frozen and put on OFAC lists. And this has come down now to Ethereum dApps, and it didn't touch Bitcoin at all. So I suppose the question that we have to address here aren't we the bad guys now that led the people to this option of using Ethereum-based privacy, and Ethereum-based privacy is getting put on OFAC lists. So what do you think about that?
Even before that, are we criminals if we use it? Are we going to jail for using it? Of course, I never used it, but
Yeah,
I mean,
I didn't
if
use it
if
either. You know, you always call me a LARPer. You always say I'm a huge LARP. I don't use any of the tools that I'm talking about. So of course, I never used Tornado. I don't know. I've never used this tool. I'm never gonna use the tool. I'm gonna talk about it a lot, but never touch Tornado.
I just I just read the docs. I read the documentation because it's interesting, and because because I used it on testnet. Is that okay? I think that's okay. Can I can I mix testnet coins? Is that legal? Anyways, so yeah, I mean it's a good point. So let's talk about first what happened. So like, firstly, I think that like the tool Tornado still works. I think that the website is down, which I don't know who took it down. I don't know if it was like their host took it down or if they voluntarily took it down themselves, or I have no idea what happened there. But the website seems to be down. But the thing is, because Tornado is really just a smart contract on Ethereum, then you can use it either without the website or with alternative front ends on other websites, and there are a bunch of them, and they all connect to the same pool. Now, the pools and the smart contracts still work. Like the fact that the government put them on the OFAC list doesn't mean it doesn't work. It still works, and you can use it with, I guess, with ETH, which is where most of the Tornado volume is anyway. You can still use it with ETH. You can use it with DAI too. DAI is like a semi-decentralized stable coin, and that pool is pretty active as well. So you can still use it. Of course, if you do, then I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but it seems like if you do, then some governments will have a problem with you. But you can technically do it. And what did happen though is that a Circle that operates USDC, which is the second largest stablecoin, they froze all of the USDC that exists in those pools because that's the law, right? So because the government said that US entities cannot interact with those addresses, Circle immediately banned them, and they have this switch that they can ban addresses, they can blacklist addresses from USDC, and they immediately did that. Which what that means is that any USDC that happened to be in Tornado is now stuck there, presumably forever, or until Circle changes their mind. It stays there. Now, what people don't talk about is that it's actually only $70,000. Did you know that, Eric? So
Is it just seventy-five
the
thousand
the
dollars?
amount of USDC, yeah, That's because apparently no one used
Okay, well
the
that makes sense.
USDC
That
pool
makes
on
sense.
Tornado, probably because they knew that this was going to happen, or could happen, and instead they use DAI, which can't be frozen that easily. It might be possible to freeze it in more complicated ways, but not that easily. So yeah, in reality, like very little, very few funds were affected by this, and I think it's even possible that it's like like old money that someone forgot about and wasn't gonna withdraw anyway. So technically you can still
But
use it.
but there, I think there could still have been tons of usage of the USDC pool in Tornado. It's just that people don't keep their funds in the pool forever. They mix it and then they get out. And this $75,000 is just what was left there, like at the moment, right now, when this happened.
I mean, if you look at other pools, like if you look at the ETH and the DAI pools, then I think we're talking, I don't know, 8 or 9 figures that are sitting there right now.
Yeah, but
I think 8
but
figures,
it sounds like people
high
are.
8
It sounds
figures.
like people It sounds like people are smart and they understand that they should not keep these tokens that have freeze
Yeah,
mixer in
yeah,
because it's gonna end up in this situation. Important to understand here that like the technical risk, the technical risk of actually losing your money because the U.S. government comes and clamps down on Tornado, that has to do with the custody properties of the token that you're using. So if they were using ETH, if they were using DAI that doesn't have this freeze functionality, then this US clampdown, while it might incriminate you in the eyes of the US law, it doesn't mean that they can take the funds away from you because there's no freeze functionality. So no one has lost money using just using Tornado. Like if they lost money, it means that they were using a freezable asset and they were keeping it
right.
inside the Tornado pool. Right. So that's
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't want
that's
to say no
it's
one.
not,
I mean, someone lost, or in total, people lost $75,000, which I guess it's not zero, but it's a very low number for this kind of thing. So it's
yeah, but
even,
if they
it's
lost it, it was
even
because they
conceivable that,
used a freezable coin. They used a freezable
yeah,
coin
yeah,
inside a price.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So if you did take care to use only decentralized stuff, which is, literally 99% of the usage of Tornado anyway, then you didn't lose money. You can still take it out and you can still use it. But it will be very clear that the money you got into your address came from Tornado, and that's illegal. So that fact is not easy to erase, right? If you want to take your coins out of, like your ETH or you DAI out of Tornado right now, and then you hope to send it to an exchange, then you might find yourself facing some problem, right?
But why can't you just do it like this? So, okay, this OFAC list right now, it impacts only U.S. Citizens, like people that have something to do with America. So if your coins are in the Tornado pool right now, and you withdraw them not to yourself, but let's say you have a friend who lives in UK or he lives in Sweden, lives in Scandinavia or Israel, you send it to that friend. Now he's not doing anything illegal, receiving money from the Tornado cash mixer, and then he sends it to you. So how many steps back does the US government look and say, well, look, your funds has once a point in time touched a Tornado pool? They can't look an infinite number of steps back because the odds of it having been in the Tornado pool, the further back you go, is it approaches like one, or it approaches a very high degree of probability. So how far back are they going to look? It sounds like there's a very easy loophole to just send it out to a friend. The friend sends it to you. Now you got your money back, and no one in these steps in between did anything illegal.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
technically, it makes sense to me.
it sounds
But
like we should, let's not give any advice to anyone. Like this is a situation where people need to get counseling, some person that knows anything about the law.
Again, we never
I'm just
used
happy.
Tornado. I don't.
Yeah, we never used it.
I'm just reading the
We're not
documentation.
giving legal advice to US people here.
Yeah, this is
By the way,
all
didn't we
based
get
on what the documentation
I
says.
think I think I think that I recall the two of us being in a big fight with the Tornado developers. This was, I think it had to do with the fact that they had an
Many
admin
years
key
ago.
that could replace, yeah, many years ago. I think they had an admin
Yeah,
key that could either upgrade a contract or replace the ZK proof that they were using without any. It like the admin key, the powers that it had in terms of upgrading the contract also made the entire system custodial. So they had the power to freeze everyone's
yeah,
funds in Tornado, and they weren't disclosing this risk accurately. In their opinion, they were still like in alpha mode. In our opinion, they were operating a smart contract, decentralized, but it was 100% custodial. And I think that what we understood was that they had to pretend that this was decentralized, otherwise they would run into regulatory issues as like a money transmitter or a centralized mixer. So they couldn't put it on the website because then they would be admitting to committing some type of money transmitting, violation of money transmitting
you're trying to
laws.
be
Uh,
you're trying to be a lawyer again. But I think
I'm
that
just trying to
yeah,
understand the
like
situation. Just
to put this in context, that was like 2 years ago. And since then, they literally threw away the admin keys. So when they're saying now these days, when they're saying that they're not in control of it, they're saying the truth. Like there's no way they can do
yeah,
anything
I think
today.
they replaced the ZK proof with this, like they have this what's it called, the ignition ceremony. There was I think it was for the Aztec protocol. They had to do like a giant multi-party computation setup of a snark. So you have to generate all this cryptographic garbage, and as long as one person throws away his cryptographic material, then no one can generate the private key, the key that can de-anonymize the users. So they had this massive ceremony called the ignition ceremony, where there were tons of people from the community participating. I don't know if it was like 1,000 people or 800 people that participated, and these ignition parameters for the ZK proof for the ZK system can be usable across many different protocols, and that's what they're using, and what many of these ZK dApps in Ethereum are using. They're reusing the same ignition parameters from that ceremony because there were just so many different people across the ecosystem that participated that it's generally understood to be very hard to break. I think this is that was what they did. That they replaced their primitive ignition with this very wide ceremony from the Aztec ignition ceremony that they're reusing. So it's understood to have a very high degree of being good privacy, if I'm not misremembering the details.
Yeah, that was a lot of details, so I hope you didn't misremember them. But but the bottom line is, yeah, that it's no longer in their control, so they can't stop it. They literally cannot. Like if they wanted to stop it tomorrow, they literally can't. There's nothing they can do to stop it. It will keep going,
Okay.
and if maybe the North Korean government will fund development from now on, but it can't be stopped. It is what it is.
Yeah. So this is an interesting point also, that like the initial tweet, that what was the name of that Republican senator that initially
I don't
tweeted
know,
about putting this on the.
some guy in a suit.
Yes, but let me bring it up. I think it was interesting because he initially wrote that initially wrote that. Let me put it up. Yeah, Secretary Anthony Blinken was a U.S. government official. said initially, he said, we will continue to aggressively pursue actions against currency mixers laundering virtual currency for criminals. Today, the US Treasury sanctioned virtual currency mixer Tornado Cash, which is a US sanctioned DP used by the DPRK to launder money. So he literally said that this was a state sponsored by the North Korean government, like a mixer that was created by the North Korean government or sponsored by the North Korean government.
Which
And then he
which
deleted
was a
that
mistake.
tweet, yeah, which was a mistake because we know who the Tornado Cash developers are. It's this mix of US and European developers. We know them, we know their names, we know their faces. They've been on tons of different Ethereum conferences. They're on Twitter. They're very well-known individuals in the Ethereum space. So he deleted that tweet and then he put up another tweet, I think, that said that this tool is being used by the North Korean government. So he corrected his language, I think. But I think that it's actually correct though what he's saying, because I was, as you remember, like a while back, I was on a Swedish news program on the political news, which had to do with a news item that had come up that the North Korean government was using cryptocurrency to fund their nuclear missiles program. So the development of nuclear weapons in North Korea was being funded by hundreds of millions of dollars that they got from crypto, and they had been doing this for years. And this was a part of a chain analysis study that they had done that tracked the wallets and monitored the addresses of North Korean labeled hacker groups, and they were what had happened recently, like before, what used to be the case before, like how the North Korean government usually got this money was that they would be doing like phishing attacks on cryptocurrency exchanges, like crappy ones, like not Kraken, not Bitstamp, not Binance, but they would go for like this top 50 that still has like hundreds of millions of dollars in them, and they would do pretty basic phishing attacks on these exchanges. They would get access to the cold wallets, and they would drain those wallets, and they would send them through various Bitcoin. Like they would use tons of different obfuscation techniques of putting it in. Like first they would send it to, oh yeah, they used to use like darknet markets. They deposit it into darknet markets. They withdraw from the darknet market, so the darknet market itself acts as a mixer, and then they send it to a bunch of other mixers. And then and chain analysis can only track these funds to the point where they enter the traditional banking system, which they do eventually. So they go into the Asian banking system, and they are being taken out as cash. I would assume either through OTC dealers or just by people. I mean, it's not that difficult for the North Korean government to have a couple of Chinese citizens with their passports and everything be KYC'd at Chinese exchange, and they
I just
just sell their
wanna
crypto for. Yeah,
I
go
just
ahead.
want to say all this knowledge that Eric has about North Korean procedures, that's also something he read on the documentation. It's not from experience, and
Of course not. Of course.
no first-hand use of North Korean evasion tactics and hacking tools. Okay, go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I never traveled to North Korea and gave them presentations or anything like that. I hope everyone understands that. Anyway, so what's been happening recently though is that, I mean, the North Korean hacker group, this group, they go, of course, they just want money. Like they don't care which targets they hack, and so they will go for the lowest hanging fruit, which most recently, and there's a huge uptick has now been in DeFi. So I think that the Rohan side chain, where I think $600 million was hacked, that was the Lazarus group. And this was the hack that I think took 6 days for people to even
Ronin,
notice that
the
the
Axie
Ronin,
Infinity
yeah,
thing.
sorry, yeah, exactly. So that was the North Korean hacker group that now identified that, okay, well, hacking a sidechain in Ethereum is not that much more difficult than what they've been doing when they've been hacking centralized exchanges. They just need to get 4 out of 6 keys or something like that, and 3 out of those 6 keys were controlled by the same. So in reality, they only had to compromise 2 targets and then they drained the bridge. So they've been doing that, and I think what's interesting is that now they get these funds and they're primarily like it starts out in Ether for them. So now the process of tumbling those assets now also has involved now Ethereum native steps. So they will one thing that they will do is like they will swap it on Uniswap, they will swap it through some other decentralized exchange, and then they will use mixers. They haven't been specific in specifying exactly which mixers on Ethereum they're using, but I think it's safe to assume that they have been using Tornado Cash. So they have been mixing funds stolen in DeFi through Tornado. But what's interesting is that if you track the movements of the North Korean hacker groups, is that they like to hold Bitcoin. Like they hold once they get Ether, they prefer to exchange that amount from Ether back into Bitcoin, and they like to hold on to Bitcoin more than they like to hold on for Ethereum what they like to hold on to Ether, which is understandable because Bitcoin literally is the hardest to confiscate asset that they have the most experience in keeping a way out from G20 countries that try to seize it from them. But in any way, because many of these hacks are now directly sourced from the DeFi economy, they've also had to apply any type of privacy tools and mixers that they can from the Ethereum economy. So this is why I think now these sanctions and these clampdowns from the U.S. Treasury are focused on Ethereum tools because they see a very like there's very obvious addresses that are associated with mixing that they can just say like put this address on a sanctions list, and it's harder to say
So
like
I have
okay
a
ban.
question. So I have a question for you.
Go on.
So if you're saying the DOJ wants to stop, the path for North Korean hacking groups, it wants to stop their path from making the hack, running with the money, and somehow managing to integrate it into their economy or whatever. And if we know that the money is always coming from these hacks, from stuff like Ronin Bridge and Nomad Bridge and whatever, all those bridges to Ethereum, all of which are really full of money from VCs. Can't the DOJ just shut down Andreessen Horowitz and then stop the funding to North Korea that way?
I mean, I suppose they are funding many of
I mean,
the
why not go
like
after the source
the build out of these
instead
bridges.
of like there's all of the
Look, I think
they're jumping through the bridges
I,
in
I
the
think
pool.
that
They're just
no, I mean the only thing that will happen is that the same way that they have been successful in transferring Bitcoin through a bunch of mixers and then eventually onto OTC dealer platforms or onto centralized exchanges and then selling that for fiat. I mean, you can do that natively with like pure Ether at the moment. Like you can use you can take Ether and you can put it in a centralized exchange and you can sell the Ether there. That the North Korean hacker groups, they like to involve as many steps as possible, and even when they're in Bitcoin, they use these peel chains that even though that they know like so a peel chain, even though that Chainalysis can trace them down after the fact and be like, oh, wait, we can actually like this obfuscation method that you used was not good enough to obfuscate the trace of funds for us when we are sitting down and we're doing this analysis months after the fact. But the North Korean government, they don't care. Like they don't care if they actually get caught. The only thing that they care about is can they get the money into the exchange? Can they sell that, get it into to the traditional banking system, and can they take that cash out in hand and then put into giant bags that they then use to negotiate with arms dealers with? So for them, they don't care if they get caught 3 months down the road, because what are the US going to say? Oh, we know that you have money and that you're using it to fund nuclear weapons. Give it back. And they're like, fuck you. This is the war that they are very. I mean, it's very obvious that they're doing that. Like everyone knows that they are funding nuclear missiles program with funds that they get from, it's not only the money that they get is not only coming from hacked crypto exchanges, it's also things like ransomware that they send out, and the ransomware goes into this exact same process. So they're not, the only privacy that they're really concerned about is that the exchange that they put the money in, they won't have their alert systems say, okay, this money comes from from a hack that we have flagged. So because they just do the number of steps necessary so that the exchange, when they're selling those funds for fiat, the exchange is not stopping them there, because the exchange cannot apply these real-time monitoring rules that trace it all the 100 steps back, because then the exchange could never do any business, because they would be stopping every single transfer and ask them for KYC documentation on every single transfer. So they're just doing as many things that they can to increase the probability that they won't get stopped when they deposit into the exchange, to decrease the likelihood that they have to provide tons of documentation when they're trying to mix these funds. So, I mean, I don't think that just because now they blocked Tornado, it doesn't mean that Korean government isn't going to be able to find some other way. I mean, they can take some ether, they can do some atomic swap using, or just use some centralized swapping. So there's tons of different ways that you can swap between ether and Bitcoin, and then taking the Bitcoin and doing a peel chain or putting it into Wasabi. It just means like there's 100 different open doors. Tornado has been one of these doors that they've been using, and they're going to keep using Tornado, I think, because if as long as it's using, then they don't have to. I mean, they're not going to go into USDC. USDC, they're just going to swap it directly, instantly through Uniswap into ETH, and then they take the ETH, they put it into Tornado, and this is something that no one can stop, right? So like
I
there's
think the
really
problem they'll have
hundreds
is
of different ways.
if no one else uses it. So if no one else uses Tornado, and it's only only hackers go through the trouble of using Tornado through the command line and stuff like that, and no normal users use it, then it becomes pretty useless for them too. Like I think that's the point here, to say like, okay, we will make sure that no normal person uses Tornado because we'll make it illegal, and we'll make it difficult for exchanges to interact with people who use Tornado and so on.
Yes. So,
So
but that
we'll
will
make it
mean
difficult for
that will
normal
mean
people.
yeah. So this is the same thing that is happening now with CoinJoin, for example. Some exchange putting extra scrutiny on funds that they can trace having been in a CoinJoin transaction 5 steps back or something like that. It means that people become more reluctant to use that tool whatsoever, and it also means that the hacker groups don't use that exact tool. They'll use some other. What I'm saying is that these type of this type of blocking specific paths on the blockchain and specific dApps, it doesn't stop the North Korean hacker groups from getting this cash into their hands and then using it to fund their nuclear missiles program. It just means that they'll have to take some other steps. In the meantime, what is actually causing harm and causing damage is that regular people are now it's illegal for them to use a perfectly good privacy tool. Meanwhile, the North Korean government doesn't have any problem of just using some other swaps, some other dexes, and then some other ways to go straight into Bitcoin and then use peel chains there and use Wasabi there. Like all those paths are still open. Like I'm saying, there's 100 different doors, and the U.S. government has now put the cross mark on 3 of them. The North Korean government will use the 96 opens, and privacy will be much worse for the people, the good citizens, whatever you want to call it, that were using Tornado. So I think like that's just the general point that I want to get across.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. It's it kind of sucks. It kind of sucks, especially because when you think of especially in something like Ethereum, if you think about how much data is leaked when you're using Ethereum. You use if you think about anyone who sends you money on Ethereum, who gets your address, like you ask your friend to send you $100, so you give them your address. Now they can look at any trades you ever did, any ICOs you ever participated in, any NFTs you ever bought. Like they can see everything with full detail. And if normal people are not allowed to use simple privacy tools to go around that, then it's really like a privacy nightmare, in a sense that we never had before, right? Like it's not, it's way worse than using your credit card or using your bank account. Like it's way worse because anyone you interact with has your entire financial history. Um, I honestly, I don't know like what how governments expect that people will handle that, because there's no way that this is the way the world is going to work, right? Like everyone is just going to give away their entire financial history to every single person they interact with. So I don't know where this is going, to be honest with you.
But I don't think that it's. I agree that it sucks, but I don't think that it sucks exactly as much as one would think, because I think that first of all, like we have to build privacy solutions that can resist the the enforcement of government. If we build privacy solutions that one day the US government puts that privacy DApp on an OFAC list and it's game over, then that was not a very good privacy tool. I think that we need to have these decentralized, unstoppable mixers that the US government shutting those down doesn't matter. And the way that you're interacting with those dApps also doesn't expose your trail that you're using a mixer and then you're getting the funds back. I think that we need something more holistic. And I think that like this was always a risk that the US government would do this. And by the way, up until this point, like if you used Tornado up until now, I don't think that you've done anything illegal. You have not been interacting with a contract that has been on the OFAC list. Now this address is on the OFAC list. So now if you want to continue using that, now you're doing something bad. But I mean, we can still like, okay, I don't want to give legal advice again, but this contract, like the way that Tornado works, that's open source code. Someone else can deploy that and we can use that for a while, and then they'll put that address on the list and then you stop using it. Like you can still do this. You're not violating any laws. I think it's this cat and mouse game that we're going to run into with privacy is going to be annoying, but I think that ultimately it will push us to go into a direction where we'll use more holistic privacy solutions. And I think like I want the government to be trying to destroy our privacy so they reach some state where we've been fighting their enforcements for such a long time that we were pushed to find tools that were so holistically encompassing that now it's very difficult for them to know who's doing what. So I think like this push that is coming from the US government, it doesn't incriminate every previous user of Tornado. It does cause a complex situation for the people that are in a Tornado pool right now, but I think there's going to be tons of loopholes. Like I said, you can send it to a friend and he can send it to you, something like that. You'll be able to get your funds out of the pool. If you have USDC in there right now and it got stuck there because of this, that's a very sad situation. We're lucky that it's only $65,000. And also, you were not very smart putting a seizable coin inside a privacy mixer. That's also a little bit on you, I would say. Like, I don't think that anyone has given you the advice to put a seizable coin inside a mixer. And you should be aware of the risk. Like, if you're doing that, then okay, do it with some amount of money, like $1,000 to darknet market to buy your sleeping pills or whatever, and you're fine with losing that money. That's completely fine. This is not a disaster for humanity that you lost your darknet wallet funding money. So I don't think that this is a disaster. This is a situation that we can't recover from. I just think that this is an elevation in aggression from the government on privacy tools that we know was going to happen. Like, what did you think? Did you think that we were just going to launder our funds with the North Korean hacking groups in these mixing
Who's
tools
we?
and they
I
weren't
never
going to
used
say
it,
anything?
Derek. Who's we?
Uh,
I never used Dorita.
yeah,
All I did was read in the
Vitalik
documentation,
Buterin,
Eric.
Vitalik has some funds in Tornado. I know this for a fact, and these funds are currently commingled with North Korean hacker group assets in a pool together, and he is helping them. He's increasing the anonymity set for the North Korean hackers by being himself in the pool. So Vitalik is one guy who's doing this that everyone can see. So I suppose I'm referring to him when I'm.
So it's a conversation about Vitalik's
But don't you agree with the general
preferences.
point? Yeah, but don't you agree
No,
with the
yeah,
general point though,
yeah.
that
I
we
think you're
need
right.
the governments to go after these tools for them to become better?
Yeah, sure, sure. You could say that. And I mean, do you think what's the other alternatives? You know, like in what ways do they get better? Because I think, you know, like a good example would be something like Monero, right? Where privacy is by default, and you can't point to someone and say, oh, they went through a mixer, because everyone who uses it in a private way, and that's it. So the only thing you could say is, well, anyone who uses Monero is a criminal. But other than that, you couldn't distinguish between Monero users. So that's maybe between Monero users. So that's maybe kind of the way to go. And I think that, you know, some projects on Ethereum are trying to do things like that. You know, like essentially you would have a pool like Tornado, but you can then go ahead and send funds within the pool. So instead of having to exit the pool, you maybe just don't exit the pool. You put your funds there, and whenever you need to send funds to someone, you send it to them through the pool in a way that is private, and other observers don't see it. Um,
I
but that
suppose what you're
still has
saying is that
problems
there's
if you want to
always.
interact with smart contracts and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's
I mean
always
this
an
is
exit
this is
point, right? Like when you wanna, at some point you wanna leave the whatever system it is. You know, if it's coin joins on Bitcoin, then, you know, at some point you want to stop doing coin joins and use your coins for something. And when you do that, people see that it came from coin joins, right? Um, you know, you could say, oh, I'll put it in a Lightning channel. That's what some people are saying, but, you know, you need a counterparty for that. So if you're, you know, you could see a world where governments say, well, you're not allowed to open Lightning channels with people if they came from a coin join transaction. That's very easy to see. Um, so
Mhm.
you always need to exit the mixing solution at some point. And I think this will
Yeah.
be where the solution will always be attacked. Um, I don't know
Yes.
what's the solution to that.
So I've done some research in how to, like, if you want to get some funds in the digital economy that are purely sourced without like purely you bought them without leaving any trace of who you are when you acquired these assets. I have this guide that I've written. Do you remember the RuneScape guide that I wrote?
Yeah, I remember that. It was,
Yeah. So
it
like
was
if
as
you want
always,
to.
it was very long.
Yeah, it was very long, but in a very short summary, like it's extremely difficult. At least I was doing this test from Scandinavia, and I was trying to just buy some crypto on the street with cash, and this was extremely difficult. Like the local Bitcoins doesn't allow you to do that anymore. Like you have to KYC on their platform, and we know that local Bitcoins has been up in their ass with regulation, and they're working actively with different types of tax organizations and criminal law enforcement organizations. So like local Bitcoins, not maybe not your best guide, but you can, for example, go to local Bitcoins and you can find people who advertise like their WhatsApp there, and you can chat with that person, and you can meet up with the local Bitcoin system altogether. In Sweden, this was extremely difficult for me to do. Like I wasn't able to buy crypto on the street, neither in Sweden nor in Norway was I able to do that. In some other countries, it might be easier. I had a really tough time doing it in Scandinavia. For 1 month, I tried. I didn't find a single one. I even went so far that I used Tinder. Like I had my girlfriend set up a Tinder account, and she was just talking randomly to guys to find one guy that would sell her crypto for cash on the street, and we got
Eric,
banned
this is
from Tinder.
terrible.
Yeah, so
This
I
is
mean,
terrible. I
eventually the eventually
You pimped
the
out your
design that
girlfriend
we
to get
eventually.
crypto?
I was writing a blog article, and I was very frustrated with it. It took months, and I asked her to help me out because look, if I match with a girl randomly on Tinder and I say, hey, can you trade crypto with me on the street? She's not gonna do that. But if my girlfriend is an attractive female, there are tons of guys who are gonna be like, if the way to start a conversation with you is that the first step is that I sell you some crypto for cash on the street, there are guys that are willing to do that with my girlfriend. So that was one path to get into the crypto anonymously. But we got banned, so we weren't successful in doing that. So the route that I found that was working was to use RuneScape. So you can set up a RuneScape character, and now you have a digital wallet in the RuneScape economy that you can receive RuneScape gold in. So now you can use traditional payment rails to go on this OTC market for RuneScape, and you can fund your character with gold by just you go into a Discord channel, you find someone who's selling RuneScape gold for PayPal or whatever, like some digital payment option. Then now you have a character with gold. So now you have to create another character that has no connection to the first character. Like you use a completely different computer, different IP address, and then you transfer this gold from the one character to the next character. Now, no one in RuneScape knows that only the RuneScape developers might know that some money was transferred from this one to the other, but no one that are sitting on the on-ramps that are selling RuneScape cash for dollars or for crypto is going to know about this. So now you're just a character in RuneScape, and now you want to sell your RuneScape gold to yet another person who's purchasing RuneScape gold and selling you crypto for that. So this was ultimately the step that I used, and it's very expensive. Like you're gonna lose like 12% of the money that you put in just by getting punished by the spreads. So, but in any case, I did this. I was able to get Bitcoin sourced with no way that I could immediately see that they would be like, if the U.S. government, like if this solution became popular and everyone was doing this, then I think that the U.S. government would probably start collaborating with JagX, which is the developer of the RuneScape game, and they would keep track of these. It's possible to actually get PayPal money into Bitcoin using standard payment rails without there being some connection to your original. But this is process you can Google my name, Eric Wall, RuneScape, and you'll find this article. This at least is the most like the highest privacy path to getting getting crypto without revealing your name to some digital service directly. Like this is the most indirect way, the most obfuscated way that you can do it.
But you did have to reveal your ex. For the first
no, she was wearing no. She was using a fake name on Tinder, and she was having her face masked. She had her face masked.
Why did you have to get your actual girlfriend to do that? Just make a fake account with a girl. You're pretty good at that.
Because I still have to meet up with a person on the street, and if I meet up and I'm a guy, and the guy is he gonna give me his crypto, and I'm just a guy that is saying, oh, I know that you were trying to meet a girl and sell her crypto, and now I'm here.
You could pay any girl to do that. You didn't have to do that with your girlfriend. I'm just trying to understand that relationship. Really,
yeah, it was easier to do it.
I don't know.
Using my
Something
girlfriend.
is off.
I would. No, this was the easiest. I'm a very rational person, and this was the most rational step. Anyway, so what we're coming down to, and my voice is, I really hate you now, Udi, for making me do this spaces with you because it's fucking up my voice. Anyway, to get pure, I think that the conflict that we've been trying to touch on is that if you're using something like Ethereum as a base layer, and then these privacy tools are something that you opt into, and you hop in and you hop out of these privacy mixers or layers, then there's always going to be contingency and controversy at the entry and exit points to those privacy tools. Therefore, it might be better to use an all-encompassing privacy tool with no way to opt out from the privacy, such as Monero. But you still have the problem, okay, how do you get the Monero now in the first place if they start to go after Monero in that way also? So then you're gonna have to do something weird like I do, where you pimp out your ex on Tinder, or you use RuneScape or whatever. It becomes very, very difficult, and it's always going to be very, very difficult, because it's always going to be very difficult until we are at that point when we are natively, like, you're getting paid from your employer inside of a privacy pool. Like, that's where you got your money from in the first place. And then you took that money and you didn't go out from the system ever. Like, this was your private spending part of your cash. Like, that's one direction that's ultimately might be the way we have to go into, like, where you just stay in the privacy realm forever. You don't leave it. And the problem is that which we have right now is that people want to go from DeFi, and DeFi is very difficult to anonymize. There's one tool now that is being developed called Aztec Connect, which acts like a VPN for DeFi, where you are. I don't know if I'm so new at like understanding how that protocol works, but I think it works in the sense that you are in a layer abstracted away from the contracts that you want to interact with, and when you interact with those contracts, you are now engulfed by the privacy that is being provided by Aztec. So you don't know which user on Aztec Connect is interacting with which contract in the that Aztec is interacting with this other contract. So it becomes like a VPN, like in the same way that a VPN allows you to get some privacy from surveillance, but also in a way, I suppose that is better than a VPN, because with a VPN, then the VPN provider can de-anonymize you. Aztec can't really de-anonymize the people that are using Aztec Connect. So it's like a superior way of a VPN, I would say. But you still have the issue that if the US government says that, okay, well, just the fact that you used Aztec Connect is illegal. So they might come after Aztec also. And we might have to, like, if you want to use crypto in a privacy competent way, then you might have to go in this direction where you are always staying inside the privacy realm and you're not leaving it, because they're going to catch you on the on ramps and the off ramps, which is not like an easy answer, and it's not obvious for people to how to like what to do with that information. I think like realistically, what we're going to be doing for some time now is the cat and mouse game, this long drawn out cat and mouse game with the US government and other governments as well.
Yeah. Well, long story short, it sucks. How come they're not banning Lightning if Lightning is so good for privacy? Why are they only banning Tornado?
What did you say? How come they're not banning Lightning if Lightning is so? Let's
Why
unpack.
are they
Let's
banning
unpack.
Lightning?
Yeah,
If
yeah. Let's unpack that. Like, what's your is your assumption that Lightning is good for privacy? Like, is that? Do you think that that's?
I don't know. That's what people say. I'm just
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
just a journalist.
Okay.
I'm just asking questions.
Okay. Well, let me humor that assumption for a moment. Okay. Let's assume that Lightning is good for privacy. How many people are using Lightning? Like, is there a lot of people using Lightning, or are there more people using
Well,
Ethereum?
so why isn't the North Korean government using Lightning? If they,
I
you
suppose.
said they like Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose when they hack exchange, there's not enough liquidity in the Lightning channels to that exchange. Like, even if they would hack an exchange that were 1 in 100 or 1 in 1,000 that actually had Lightning channels, then so let's assume that they did hack one of those exchanges. So it would have to be like Kraken, or what's the other one? I think there's like 2, 3, 4 exchanges maximum that uses Lightning. So if they were to hack one of those exchanges, and by the way, it's not going to be those exchanges, because these hackers are going for like the top 50 to down to top 500, and those exchanges are not like they're not in the game of flexing for like the bleeding edge of users that are using Lightning. Like these exchanges don't use Lightning. The technology is not there yet. But even if they were, like even if they did hack an exchange that had Lightning channels, then there wouldn't be enough liquidity in Lightning to withdraw those assets to like the step now is that, okay, you hack the exchange. Now you have to escape from the exchange to somewhere else. So like, okay, where are you going to send light? Like, is the North Korean government going to set up a Lightning channel that they now have to find the inbound capacity for so that they can
hack.
receive their own stolen funds?
Listen, they go to the most popular Lightning app, which is a podcast that makes 77 cents a month in donations. And they send their agents to the podcaster and they hack their keys and they steal the 77 cents. And then they open a channel to get the 77 cents out and to mix them in a way that you don't know where the 77 cents came from.
And then they just do it this over again and over again.
Along the way.
And you do this over again and over again.
And if you do
that
500 million times, you end up with a lot of money. Think about it. I have like 10 minutes before I leave. Do you think we should let people on stage? Or should we just like neg them and leave?
I don't know.
Let's get Jason on stage. I feel like letting them on stage and then mid-sentence, like cutting the entire space down. Hey, Jason, what's up?
Hey, guys, before you run off, I was actually very interested in the title. You know, I want to learn how to pimp my ex out to get anonymous coins. I saw I'm in America and I can't use Tornado Cash anymore, but I've read The American Pimp by I think his name's Slim. It's a fantastic book, but I was really hoping you guys could give me some concepts and ideas around, you know, the art of pimping and getting anonymous coins, and then giving me some solution to not being able to use Tornado Cash. Thank you. This is Jason. I'm done speaking.
Oh, wow. That was a great question. Thank you, Jason. I think it starts with you have to try to date people that are younger than you, that look up to you, that will put up with.
Oh my God! I think this needs to end. I think I'm going to end this right here. This before you say, look, I don't know what are the things that they let you do in Europe, but you can't do those things in most of the world, Eric, and you can't talk about them even. I'm gonna end this here. Anyway, thank you guys for for joining the discussion about privacy. We're all criminals now for listening in. And we'll see you next time. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of drama next week about something we can't.
The age of consent in Sweden is 15. Just want to get that out. The age of consent in Sweden is 15. And here in Portugal,
I think it's 15. Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm serious. All right, let's end this now.
That's terrible.
Okay, I'm going to just end the space. Thank you very much.
Okay, bye.
For coming.
See ya.
Bye-bye.